I want to talk to you about why I think employee engagement really matters. And to answer that question, I figure let's go to the toughest, most competitive business that has ever existed. In fact, it is the least profitable business in the history of for-profit businesses. I have a hint up here. Anyone want to guess? What is the least profitable business that has ever existed? Anyone? The airline business. Literally in the last 60 years, they have lost more money as an aggregate than all other industries combined. That's why Richard Branson, who runs Virgin Airlines, has a great one-liner. He said, the easiest way to become a millionaire, hands down, is to be a billionaire and start an airline. You will instantly become a millionaire. So here's a great question. In the least profitable business to ever be in the history of for-profit businesses, how many airlines have been profitable in every one of the last 38 years? And to give you a hint, it's not WestJet. I know many Canadians would guess WestJet. They're a client of mine, but they have not been around for 38 years. Anyone want to guess? How many airlines profitable in 38 years? Take a guess. One. I bet even together we can say who they are. Southwest Airlines. Now, the interesting thing is immediately you say, well, why only one airline? Well, maybe because they're a low-cost carrier. Then I'll remind you of how many low-cost carriers have gone out of business in those 38 years. Then you say, well, they only fly one type of airplane, and there's a lot of efficiencies in one type of airplane. But then I'll remind you of how many scores of airlines have gone out of business in those 38 years that have only one type of airplane. And then finally, you'll get to the real reason. When you have engaged employees who act like owners, especially in a highly competitive environment, they will do simple things that will make your business better. They will be ambassadors for your brand wherever they are. They will be unashamed to say to people, you should switch to us. They will turn your airplanes around 30% faster than your competitors and take that fixed asset. Or maybe in a business like yours, it means that customer service rep, who's that frontline person talking to people in a branch every day when they think about upselling and getting a bigger piece of a wallet, will not be ashamed to make that offer, but will believe it is their duty, their responsibility. It's an honor to make that offer. And so does it matter? You bet it does. But some of you say, John, that's one example. I'm a left-brain person. I might have a few left-brainers in the room. So for you left-brain people, it is my only statistical slide for the entire day. So I want you to enjoy it, all right? Here's the interesting thing about employee engagement. We know that if you are in the middle of the pack in employee engagement, you will not have fundamentally different results than your competitors. That, by the way, is bad news in some ways. If you're in the 70th percentile and your competitors are in the 50th percentile, your business results will not be fundamentally different than that competitor. But we know that if you get into the top 10 or 15% of employee engagement, suddenly your results change radically. But very important, by the way, you may think we've already pushed the envelope on employee engagement. I want to challenge you. I want to ask you the question, are you in the top 10% of employee engagement of branches and banks, including your competitors all across the country? Because it's only if, in fact, you are in that top 10 or 15%, that much better than your competitors, that you will start to see what I'm about to present on the screen. Here's what you will see if you get into that top 10%. Oh, and by the way, Herb Keller, Southwest Airlines, I love this line. He says, all airlines have airplanes. He said, so what customers and employees are looking for is something more intangible, a psychic experience. You might even call it spiritual. He says, spirit is hard to define, but it is palpable in a business. If you think about it for a minute, how many agree with me? Most of your competitors offer products and services very similar to yours. Yeah, of course they do. And so it's very hard to differentiate, even though your products are great. I've looked at them, I experienced them. It's not about that. It is the people who animate that platform. And here's what's going to happen if you get into that top 10%. 50% higher levels of customer loyalty than people who are not in that top 10 or 15%. 44% above average in profits. 29% higher in revenue. And by the way, the average engaged employee is 20 to 25% more productive. And by the way, the more discretionary the job is, so if I am selling, for example, which requires high discretion, right? Because it's not just about going through the motions, up to 40% more productive than a employee who is not highly engaged. So again, if we want to talk about how do you translate, this into business success, one of the things I would say to you is I'm guessing you've got to push the envelope even further in employee engagement than you already have. You may think you're good, you probably are. I'm going to suggest to you you've got to push it even further before you see the results that you're going to see, but you will.